Hey, welcome to my video. In this video, I have a very special guest from United States. He has been with me for two episodes so far, and it is his third episode, which we are gonna do today. And today we are gonna share so much information on how you can improve your English in the fastest and easiest way. Believe me, in the fastest and easiest way. If you haven't checked the last two videos of us, so you should go and watch them. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I mean, I have been really excited since we last talked about our next talk.
Mhm. I'm excited
So,
too.
so what have you been up to?
Not a terrible amount. I've been doing a little bit of traveling lately. I've been working on my own language skills.
Hmm.
And then I've also just been trying to make sure I keep up on the little things, I guess.
Yeah, you mean keep up with. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about the English language since it is all about the language, right?
hmm
So,
Yeah.
like you shared with me some pieces of advice last time. How one can learn the language in the easiest way
hmm
possible, right? So, what do you think is the most useful way to improve listening, reading, or writing and speaking?
hmm I think that's kind of hard because I think everybody learns a little bit differently. But if I had to choose one, I would definitely say speaking because that means you have to use what you've learned, and then you can go and you speak it as well. That helps your speaking, it helps your listening, it helps your um, just helps everything out if you have to speak it. So I would say speaking if I had to choose one.
Okay, speaking. I think if it comes to a language, you gotta improve all the parts of a language:
For
reading,
sure.
speaking, writing, and listening. So,
hmm
what do you think is the most difficult?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think speaking can be difficult because you have to listen no matter what. That's how you learn.
Hmm.
That's how you learn new words from people. It's how you go and have a conversation. You have to be able to listen. But being
Hmm.
able to speak is something that takes more time because
Hmm.
then you have to be able to put the words together correctly and you have to have the words and pronounce them pretty well.
Hmm.
However, when you're writing, that means you also have to understand the alphabet. And if it's a different alphabet than what you have, then that's also difficult.
Hmm.
Um, and then also, for example, with going from English to German, you have a
Hmm.
very different word structure, and so it's very easy to forget a word or something like that. And they're spelled very interestingly, and so they can be very difficult.
Like you mentioned about alphabet. So, when it comes to speaking, writing, reading, and listening,
hmm
people, manage to do all of the things required to learn a language.
hmm
However, when it comes to, learning a particular accent,
hmm
so they fail to learn it.
hmm
They at some point they are confused whether we should go for British one or American one, accent.
hmm
And if they go for American one, a non-American one has so many dialects, right? So, which dialect or accent one should learn according to you?
That's a good question because I actually I've had to think about the same thing for learning German.
Mhm.
Um, I think you could definitely go for what's easiest because you have movies and they usually have a similar accent because of just where Hollywood is.
Mhm.
But then also a lot of actors don't have that; they just pretend to have that accent.
Mhm.
Um, but I think in America, I mean, my personal favorite would be not necessarily the California one, but it's just kind of the Western accent would probably be my favorite one in
Mhm.
America because I feel like it's easy to understand
Mhm.
and it can still be pretty quick. So it's pretty good one.
Okay. So, I mean, uh, in order to learn a particular accent or a dialect of a language, right? So we have to have a role model, right?
Mhm.
So is it true we should have a role model in order to acquire or learn a language, I mean, accent?
I think it would definitely help. I mean, I personally find it very difficult to go and develop a certain accent because then you have to, well, sorry, a certain dialect of accent.
Hmm.
Because at that point, then you have to go and kind of change the words. They sound a little different than they do. Like, I guess a good example would be, so in German, you have all of your dialects, of course. So every language has its different dialects.
Hmm.
But then they have, in German, it's very well regulated. The language is very well regulated.
Hmm.
So they have something called High German. And
Hmm.
that's where if
Okay.
you write it a certain way, that's how you pronounce it. But then if you
Hmm.
go anywhere else besides this one small portion of Germany that speaks this High German, and they will all say all these words, sometimes very differently. For example, if you go to the Frankfurt area has some of that High German, so it's
Hmm.
close to there. Then if you go to Switzerland,
Hmm.
they speak it in a way that's almost impossible to understand if you have only spoken High German.
Is
And
it because
so,
of the dialect?
yeah, it is. Yeah. So they completely change the words.
Yeah, the
And
way they.
so if you want to learn the Swiss dialect, you have to spend time around those people that speak that dialect. Because even in Switzerland, they don't
Yeah.
understand each other if you go from one side of the country to the other. And so it's important that if you have a role model, that you
Mhm.
stay with them and you go and you listen to them very carefully, that you can understand what words they're saying and how
Mhm.
it's said differently.
I have been trying to notice one thing when people, people willing to learn the language, the English language, listen to
Mm-hmm.
actors and actress.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
they find it very easy to understand them. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to, it comes to being able to understand, being able to understand other native speakers. So they find it very difficult. If I, if they listen to people on the street or an actual conversation, a real conversation, so they find it difficult. So what I tell them, guys, the guys you listen on television, they are expert. They are expert at speaking. They have mastered. They had vocal training and therapy before they came online.